Hello there, welcome back to Janet's English class. Today you're going to be learning a common branch of linguistics, which is word roots and word stems. So linguistics is a scientific study of language. Today we're going to be focusing on word roots and word stems. So what are they? Well, you're going to be learning about that today in this video. So what are some examples? I will be explaining all about word roots and word stems, everything you know, giving you examples, example sentences, all that. They're all included in this video, and I have even created a YouTube transcript for this lesson if you want to read over the lesson notes, so you can have some reading practice after you've watched today's video. So, let's get started. Alright, so before we even get started, for me to introduce some examples to you, you need to know what word roots are. So, word roots are the core meanings of a word that apply to all words with the same meaning. An example would be logy. The word root logy means the study of something. An example, or two examples, would be Greek mythology. Greek mythology is the study of Greek gods and sceneries, places. And another example would be biology. You might have had biology class before. Biology, as you may know, is the study about overall science, the human body, nature, animals. And let's move on to some examples. So, our first example of a word root is arbor. Arbor is relating to trees and nature. So, what are some words that have this word root arbor? Some examples would be arboreal. Arboreal is meaning that something lives with trees. Some animals can be arboreal, meaning they live in the wild, jungles or forests, etc. And our next example would be arboretum. And as you can guess, it means a botanical collection of plants, trees, etc. There's a difference between the word arboretum and garden. A garden is quite small and has more flowers than trees and plants, whilst an arboretum would be a more larger area, a more vast space planted with lots more trees. Alright, so our last example of the word would be arborist. Arborist. Arborist is a tree surgeon, someone who looks after trees professionally. Alright, so here's an example sentence using the word arboretum. My grandmother had her own arboretum filled with a variety of botany. Okay, so our second example of a word root is the word root ambi. Ambi means to have both of something. So, two of them. So, an example word would be ambiguous. Ambiguous means to be open to more than one interpretation. So there's no obvious meaning to a phrase, a cliche, an artwork, etc. And another example, ambidextrous. Ambidextrous, that word from there, ambi. Ambidextrous means to be able to use the right hand and left hand very well and skillfully. So an example sentence using the word ambiguous would be, many phrases people say in everyday life can be ambiguous. Ambiguous. Our third word root is dyna. Dyna. Here's a pretty common one, dyna. You hear it in everyday life. Here's a common one. Here's a common word, dynamic. So, as you may guess, the word root dyna means power and strength. Here's the definition of dynamic. Dynamic is the process or system characterized with constant change through activity. An easier example would be dynamite. So dynamite is an explosive bomb that will explode if lighted on fire. So an example sentence using dynamic, the word, is the sales team needed a person in charge, someone who is assertive, dynamic, and makes good decisions. Our fourth example is an even more common one, the word root gram. Gram means relating to something being written. So, epigram with the word root epigram. So an epigram is a literary device. You see it in books, poems, usually older ones. We don't actually tend to use epigrams in the modern world when we write nowadays, but it's still good to look back and kind of just enjoy them, because they're usually quite amusing. So, an epigram is a clever saying or remark that expresses an idea in an amusing yet witty way. So, I've read a lot of epigrams from Virginia Woolf or Theodore Roosevelt. So as I just mentioned, epigram is a clever saying or remark. And I've actually tried making up one as well. Can you think of an epigram that you've heard of, or you can make one yourself? You can type that in my website chat box. Our next example is telegram. Telegram is a message sent by telegraph in a written form. So an example sentence using the word telegram would be, the telegram was delivered at 8 a.m. in the morning. Our last and final example of a word root is fill. Fill. So fill is a daily life usage. Fill means love, humanity, and welfare. So it's related to the study of people in society. So if you might have heard of philanthropy, the word philanthropy means the desire to promote the welfare of others, providing generous donations of money for a good cause. So another easier example would be philosophy. Philosophy. Notice that word root fill in both those? Those are word roots. Philosophy. Philosophy is the study of a fundamental base or nature of knowledge. So an example sentence using the word philosophy is, the philosophy of space and time is something scientists have worked very hard on to decipher. Alright, and that's our section of word roots finished. I hope you learned something about word roots. Next, we're going to move on to word stems. Alright, so now let's move on to word stems. Word stems is the part of the word that defines it. The term can vary across other words with the same part. Now here goes our first example of a word stem. Path. Now path means like a feeling, an emotion, and depth. So here are some examples of words with the word stem path. Listen to where the word stem is contained inside the word. So our first example, sympathy. Sympathy. It's in the middle of the word. Sympathy means a feeling of pity, sorrow for someone else's misfortune. So an example sentence, Pat showed his sympathy by reassuring Lily about how her low test score won't do much harm to her grades. Another word example is pathetic, a more negative tone. Pathetic is a harsh word to describe a miserably low standard. Now, a more up-leveled, positive toned word is empathy. I value empathy a lot. So empathy is the ability to share a feeling with another person, understanding their emotional experiences. So when have you showed empathy in your life? So you can comment in my website chat box. Our last example, actually our second to last example is apathy. Apathy means the lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern of something. Having apathy means you don't really care about something. Okay, our last example is telepathy. Telepathy is a superpower I would love to have. What is a superpower that you would like to have? For me, it's telepathy. Telepathy means to express communication without using known senses, which in easier words means to read someone's mind or communicating without sign language or speaking. So the origin of these word stems are from Greece, meaning that they are Greek word stems. Alright, our next word stem is nami. Nami means according to the law, meaning the rules or the study of something. So here are some examples. Our first example is astronomy. Astronomy is a branch of science about celestial objects, space, planets, and about the physical universe as a whole. Another example would be economy. Economy is a state or region which produces and consumes goods for the supply of money. Alright, here is an example sentence using the word economy. An example of economy would be stock markets. Stock markets, finance, all accord to money as the core. Alright, the origin of the word stem is from Greece, Greek word stems. Alright, our next word stem is fract. Here's one I heard really common. I've heard it like in school, in books, read it in books, seen it on the internet, because fract applies to a lot of words in English. Fract. When you hear the word fract, the word stem in a word, it means to break, damage, or harm. So, fracture. You might have heard of this one before. Fracture is the breaking of a hard object or material. For example, a bone fracture. Upsetting, isn't it? Alright, another serious example. All of the words with the word stem fract are kind of serious. Well, apart from fraction, which I will explain later. And here's an example. Infraction. What does that mean? Infraction is a violation against a law or agreement. For example, an infraction can lead to suspension from school. Or if we're talking seriously, a serious infraction can lead to someone sentenced to prison. Alright, here is another example, which also means to break, damage, and harm. Well, not harm, to break. Fraction. You might have heard this in math class. In math, it means part of a whole, fraction. It also has that word stem fract in there, to break. When spoken in everyday English, it means a certain amount of a size, similar, isn't it? Okay, so an example would be 1/2 of a whole as a fraction is 1/2. This word stem originates from Latin. Alright, our next word stem is herb. Herb means relating to land or city. Common example, suburb. A suburb is the outlying districts of a city, usually existing with more vast environments of grass, pastures, meadows, more farm animals, and with less buildings than the urban areas. Alright, an example sentence would be, Oliver studies at a prestigious college in the suburbs of Chicago. Next we have urbanite. Urbanite is someone who lives in a town or city. Urbanology. Urbanology is a study of dealing with specialized problems of a city, such as education, sociology, or politics, etc. This word stem originates from Latin. Alright, our last word stem example is pack. Pack means peace, tranquility, calmness. So, this doesn't mean that all words that don't have pack doesn't mean calm. Like the word calm doesn't have pack in it, but it still means calm. Alright, so a word pacify. Pacify means to quell the anger. Quell means to like kill, diminish. Calm, soothe. Quell the anger, excitement, or agitation of something or someone. To calm someone, in shorter words. Okay, so an example would be, Charlotte and Tom had to pacify the angry spectators. Alright, so someone who pacifies. What is that called? Pacifier. A pacifier is someone who pacifies a person or thing. Sounds like a tongue twister, isn't it? Alright, Pacific. Next example, Pacific. Pacific means peaceful in character or intent. Intent means intention. And lastly, pacifist. Pacifist. I don't know how to pronounce it. Pacifist. Yeah. Someone who believes that war and violence is wrong. Alright, so there you have learned 5 word stems. I hope you learned something. Lastly, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciated you taking your time to watch this video to learn about English linguistics. Linguistics are very, very important in English. And today, you've learned word roots and word stems. I hope to make more videos on branches of linguistics as well. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you liked it. If you did, click that like button, subscribe for more upcoming great English videos for you to learn areas of English. Again, thank you for watching and Merry Christmas. Have a good Christmas Eve, and I'll see you guys next time.